Michael Rowland coming to you this morning from the lands of the Ngunnawal people in Canberra, where the Treasurer Jim Chalmers last night delivered his third federal budget. As expected, cost of living relief for all Australians very much front and centre of that document. Let's go through some of the key measures as we knew and as confirmed by the Treasurer last night. Those stage 3 tax cuts will flow to Australians from July the 1st this year. Also last night, the Treasurer announced new cost of living relief measures totalling close to $8 billion. As part of that, the edge will be taken off power prices, with all households to get a $300 annual credit to be paid quarterly. Small businesses will also benefit with $325. Renting is about to get easier for some people too, with the Commonwealth rent assistance lifting by 10%. And the cost of medicine will be frozen for 1 year. But most people on welfare miss out, with no increase to the job seeker rate. Now, the Treasurer insists the measures will not fuel inflation and is warning the $9.3 billion surplus is the last in a while, with forecasts for large deficits in the years ahead. But that energy bill relief package is certainly the key measure being promoted by the Treasurer this morning, defended by the Treasurer this morning. Let's hear him on our show a bit earlier.
Well, we think people are doing it tough beyond those who are on pensions and payments. Obviously, people on pensions and payments are a very high priority for us. They were last year with the energy bill rebate, and they will be again this time. But some of these pressures are being felt up the income scale, including, millions of people in Middle Australia are under pressure as well. We are providing this energy bill relief to every household. We think that's a good way to help make things a little bit easier for people. Some of the other measures are more targeted.
OK, let's drill down into some of the reaction. Plenty of it here at Parliament House this morning, and bring in Dr Pradeep Philip. He is the lead partner with Deloitte Access Economics. Dr Philip, great to see you. Good morning. So let's start with that energy bill relief announced by the Treasurer last night. It'd be welcome relief for so many hard-pressed Australians. Economically, is it a good move?
Look, this is part of dealing with the inflation problem that we've had, and people sitting around the kitchen table are opening their energy bills and seeing this go up. Some of it is because of factors overseas. Some of it is because we're engaged in a big energy transition to change the structure of the economy. And to bring people along, they deserve some sort of relief. Now, economically, one of the things that's interesting in the budget is that the Treasury is forecasting that the economy is going to slow. And it highlights that over the last year, household consumption has been incredibly weak. So what this does, it fills a little bit of that hole. But the big risk in all of this is, will people take all this money, particularly when you add state government money on top, and spend this out in the economy? How
much danger is there of that? Because, as you know, the Treasurer insists this measure and the rent relief measure won't drive inflation up. But surely at least some Australians will spend this $300 elsewhere, and thereby potentially fueling inflation.
Look, I think that's the big risk, but you can see in the Treasury forecast that they see household consumption as particularly weak, and so they're banking on the fact that this money goes to just pay the bills that people have to kind of deal with every day. But the risk is, if you think about it, this $300 goes to everybody. And not everybody requires that sort of relief. And so there is this risk here. Now, the Treasury documents tell us that these measures will take about 0.5 percentage point off the headline inflation rate. So that's a mechanical arithmetic impact. But does it do anything?
Will it work?
Well, that's the key, Will underlying inflation shift at all? And that's what the Reserve Bank will be looking at. And so it is a bit of a gamble, but if you think about it, households out there are really struggling, and it'd be pretty mean not to think about giving them some sort of assistance.
Oh, absolutely. But speaking of the RBA, how would they be viewing this budget, not just on the energy relief measure, but also the forecast of those quite large deficits after this financial year?
Look, 2 surpluses in a row, and then deficits as far as the eye can see. And a large part of the swing towards deficit is the fact we've got these stage 3 tax cuts now in place. Both sides unfunded, but they're the big factor driving this deficit. what will be important is, because there are some important reforms in this budget, like the production tax credits, which are trying to lift the supply side of the economy. And one of the things the Reserve Bank will be looking for is, will some of these measures lift productivity? Because if we lift productivity, then we can afford better wage rises and things like that.
A question on the lips of so many of our viewers as we wrap up, Pradeep Philip. What are you expecting from the RBA, given what we know about the budget, the general economy? Are we expecting a rate cut anytime soon this year, or we're going to have to wait until well into next year?
Look, I think it is a wait-and-see game. The Reserve Bank clearly has this view. They want to see the evidence of inflation really coming down properly into their target range, but they'll also be having an eye on the state of the economy. And what is clear is that Treasury thinks the economy is a bit weaker. And the Reserve Bank won't be trigger happy, but they'll have a very clear eye on inflation. If it starts to come down as Treasury forecasts, then they'd be more likely to think about reducing rates.
All eyes on the RBA board. Pradeep Philip, as always, really appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be.
Pradeep Philip there from Deloitte Access Economics. Back to you, Lisa.
Yeah, Michael, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of those things, though, that he said then before you go. The RBA, that's a big factor, what they're going to be thinking. I wonder also, once those tax cuts actually kick in on July 1, whether it will change how people are feeling about this budget, because they don't actually see what they've got yet at the moment. They've seen the speech and they're a little bit hesitant about what difference it's going to make for them.
Yeah, that's right. And listen, those tax cuts will make a big change to many household budgets. Question remains open as to whether Australians, by large, will bank those tax cuts, as in save them, or spend them. We do know that consumer spending has been very weak. You just have to go to your local shopping centre to look at all these shops closed, retailers struggling. But there'll be a big lick of money. From July next year, we have this $300 energy bill rebate. It's not cash in hand as such, but it's the $75 quarterly credits or rebates. As we discussed with Pradeep, then will some Australians at least spend that money on other things, and in doing so drive up inflation? So consumer sentiment is still very fragile, and if it doesn't improve with the help of those tax cuts, with the help of the energy bill relief later this year, then you'd have to say the prospects for economic growth, which is forecast to fall, picking up anytime soon, is pretty remote.
Yeah, that economic growth was looking pretty anaemic, that's for sure. Hey, Michael, thank you. Talk to you again soon. In some other news today, South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas has told Parliament the Whyalla steelworks blast furnace isn't expected to be fixed until July. The nearly 60-year-old furnace hasn't run since mid-March after it was taken offline for scheduled maintenance, affecting the jobs of hundreds of workers. The owners of the steelworks, GFG Alliance, last week revealed the shell of the furnace had been damaged in the process of trying to restart it. Breaking this morning, 2 people have been arrested over what police believe are a series of linked vandalism attacks on media and political offices in Melbourne overnight. Offenders graffitied the Channel 7 studios and Deputy Premier Ben Carroll's electoral office in Niddrie in Melbourne's northwest with red paint. The third incident occurred at the ABC in Southbank just before 5 a.m. this morning. New Caledonia's government is calling for calm and a return to peace after 48 hours of rioting in the capital, Noumea. That saw businesses set on fire and dozens of arrests. Protesters are angry over a vote about to happen in France, which would allow more of its residents to vote in New Caledonia's elections. And King Charles has unveiled his first official portrait since his coronation last May. The portrait, by artist Jonathan Yeo, has Charles against a background of vivid red hues, wearing the uniform of the Welsh Guard military unit with a butterfly just above his shoulder. Yeo previously painted Charles's late father, Philip.